Good morrow, scholars. I took a little bit of time to recollect myself after reading the last part of Shiver, and I feel a little bit better, but I'm still tremendously sad, so bear with me. We are in Chapter 13, Wit, page 46. Byron's insurance salesman haircut, colorful polo shirts, and iron I'm going to say chinos, but most of all, his know-it-all attitude had marked him as a major kiss-up back at school. This close, his face looked pinched and mean, like that of a pet ferret with hall monitor aspirations. That'd be hilarious. Tossing a folder on the metal table, he nodded to the two guards and they stepped back against the wall. Where was I? Have you been working out, Swain? I asked, clenching my fists. I mean, it doesn't look it, but you don't need to have at least 6 guards backing you up. But don't you need? There we go. Swain's face flushed bright red. We both know why you're here, he said, pacing. The little twerp was trying to sound authoritative and manly, but his natural, whiny, nasal voice cracked through at the end of every sentence. His cold eyes didn't leave my face. The sooner you admit your secrets and tell us what we want to know, the better it will be for you and your freaky fire-breathing sister. Got no idea what you're talking about, Skippy, I said. His Weasley eyes narrowed. Suddenly he leaned on the table, getting nose to nose with me. I would hate that. You can back off the drama queen performance, okay? I told him. Are you two miscreants protecting someone? He snapped, ignoring my taunts. Well, they're certainly not protecting you. Your good friends have already told us everything we need to know. We're aware of your drinking problems, Whitford, and we hardly need corroboration of your sister's pyromaniac tendencies, but those are just the license plates on the truckload of information your friends have delivered up. It was beautiful. I mean, a handful of marbles couldn't have rolled any easier. That right, I said, like they told you where I keep my stash of donut holes, my gaming cheat codes, the D on my last bio test that my folks don't know about. Somehow getting grounded isn't the threat it used to be. You almost flunked biology? Wisty whispered as I watched a vein appear in Byron's forehead. Cool. Shut up, freak, he roared at Wisty. I almost said Misty. My dog back in middle school was named Misty. She was a beautiful puppy. Well, I mean, she wasn't a puppy. She was pretty old when we... she was my stepdad's dog, and yeah. She was a retriever border collie mix, and she was just the fluffiest and sweetest thing I'd ever seen. I loved her so much. Where was I? Who just stuck out her tongue. I saw what you did earlier. You burst into flames, and you weren't even hurt afterward. It's not sick and wrong. If that's not sick and wrong, I don't know what is. You think it's bad being here in this wussy prison? It will get a lot worse, trust me on that, you deviants. A lot worse. You know Byron, Wisty said in her almost insulting la-di-da voice. You're the freak, actually. We could put you on our secret voodoo witchcrafty to-do list. At that, Swain snapped. Lunging across the table, he grabbed Wisty's arm so hard she yelped. And then the weirdest thing, and that's saying something, a flash of blinding light leaped between my sister's free hand and Byron's chest. The creep squealed like a guinea pig. Aw. We used to have guinea pigs. The creep and was thrown backward, falling on his butt near the astounded guards. My eyes nearly falling out of my head in disbelief, I looked over at my sister and realized she had just hit Byron with a lightning bolt. Lightning. A small bolt, sure, but lightning. From her fingertips. More proof. Byron squeaked, his voice sounding extra crispy and his face almost purple. He was rubbing his chest, obviously horrified by the burn mark on his shirt. You are a witch. You'll be locked up forever. He got to his unsteady feet and staggered from the interrogation room. You're throwing lightning at people now? I asked Wisty. I mean, whoa. I would love to throw lightning at people. For those of you that don't know, I actually have a Luke Skywalker costume from The Force Awakens. Right there. You can kind of see it in that drawer right there. Yeah, there we go. That looks like I'm pointing at it, even though I'm not. Anyway, I was thinking about getting another cloak, but black, and then being the Emperor. Anyway, chapter 14, Wit, page 49. I must have fallen off to sleep soon after Spud Swain's visit, and then I woke in my cell with hot tears rolling down my cheeks. It's not that I'm a total wuss, though I can be during sappy movies sometimes. I was crying because I just talked to Celia in a dream. I guess it was a dream, but it felt so real to me. No, it was real. I remembered hugging Celia tight to my chest like we were the most heartbreaking, on the most heartbreaking date of all time. That's kind of sad. Who texted? Huh. Hi, Wit. I missed you, she said, like it was perfectly normal for me to be seeing her again after all these months with her missing. I'm trying to act casual and failing pretty bad, she said with a gentle smile. Sorry. Celia, are you okay? What happened to you? I blurted out. My heart was pounding like a bass drum. We'll get to all that, I promise. The question is, are you okay? Is Wisty? Sure, you know me, Celia. I can roll with it, and Wisty is tough as nails. She's smoking, actually. I chuckled weakly at my own joke. I guess we're a little weirded out, though. Celia smiled again, and I just about couldn't stand it. I'd had no idea how much I'd missed that incredible grin of hers until now. And she was prettier than ever, if that was even possible. Smooth skin, long dark curls, the brightest blue eyes that always told me the truth, even if I didn't want to hear it. You look great, Wit, for somebody who's been kidnapped, beaten up, and jailed illegally. Now a half smile. Forget about me. I want to hear everything about you, Celia. What is going on? Where did you go? She winced, and then her head slowly moved from side to side, and tears rolled from her eyes. That's a tough question, and I know I just got here, Wit, but I really have to go now. I just had to make sure you were okay. And Wit, it's hard to believe I'm saying this to you, of all people. You really have to hang tough, you and Wisteria, otherwise you'll both be dead. Then Celia was gone. I was wide awake, and I'd been warned about what to do next. Hang tough. This took a turn. Chapter 15. Misty, would you get out of here? Page 51. I used to think detention was kind of fun, a badge of honor almost. Man, how quickly things can change. This was the real thing. My old life and the days of recklessly skipping class felt like a million worlds away now. I missed it in our house, and especially our mom and dad, so badly that I felt like I was going to lose it. I stared at the ceiling and daydreamed, remembering how Mom used to lie in bed with Whit and me when we were really little, and she'd laugh and tell us that she was teaching us how to love laughter because it was one of the very best things in life, maybe the best. It was funny. My mom and I were just talking about how growing up, she had no idea how to show affection, like just hugging or pat on the head or even a kiss goodnight. In fact, I remember this one time when I went to hug her. I was like 4, I guess, and she pushed me away. And my mom said, "Yeah, that sounds like me." Or sounded. We're much closer now than we were back then. Anyway. And how Dad always said he'd had to be our father, not our friend, and that there was an important distinction between the two, but somehow he ended up being our best friend anyway. I miss my dad. And how we went on all of those great family trips to art museums such as the Bettelheim and the Brittany, and then those potentially corny family camping trips. One every season, no matter how cold or rainy it was. And we learned how to survive in the world, but more than that, to love what was out there, just waiting to be discovered. Like this great oak tree that was in our yard, the one that Whit and I learned to climb almost as soon as we could walk, and fall. And then there were 2 guards at my door, with handcuffs and leg shackles. For me, I beamed at the 2 creeps. Aw, you shouldn't have. Amazingly, neither of them thought that was the least bit funny. Come on, witch, the one guard snapped. It's your day in court. Now you get to meet the one who judges, and you're definitely not going to like him. Of course, the other guard said. That's only fair. He's definitely not going to like you either. The guards thought that was hysterical. No accounting for taste. I should get some new glasses. What do you guys think? I'm thinking like Clark Kent style glasses. My mom's idea. Yeah. I forget what they're called. Like Fat Man glasses or something. I don't know. My mom's mean to me. Chapter 16, Wit, page 53. Sunlight, the first we'd seen in what seemed like ages, came streaming through the 30-foot-high windows in the courtroom, almost blinding us. I squinted and tried to shield my eyes, only to whack my forehead with my handcuffs. Klutz. I keep wanting to say clutch. I don't know why. Much. I had thought by now I'd be hard to shock, but I couldn't believe the scene in front of me. The mammoth portrait of the one who is the one hung at the center of the room. I've talked about it before a couple of times, but in Animorphs, the leaders of the Yerk Empire were called Viscers. There was Viscer 1, Viscer 2, 3, and I think they had 15, maybe 10, and then they had sub-Viscers that went up to like 50. And there was this council of Yerks, 13 of them, and no one was to know which one of them was the leader of the council. That way, if someone wanted to assassinate them, the leader, they'd have to kill all 13. I'm wondering if anything like that's going to take place in something like this. Okay, anyway, back to the story. Like he was a conquering general or the emperor. I was just talking about that too. There was a huge metal cage in front of the judge's desk. Yes, a cage. Like for shark diving. One guard held the door open and the other one pushed us into it. Into a cage. In a courtroom. I'm almost getting used to looking through bars, Wisty said, sounding resigned. Not like Wisty at all. Don't say that, I whispered sharply. We're getting out of this madhouse, I promise. But how? I scanned the courtroom. Surrounding us was an impenetrable wall of indifference, even hatred, plus at least a dozen armed guards. A judge, the one who judges, I'd assumed, glowered from a high platform in front of us, his thin, greasy gray hair stuck down to his scalp. On the right-hand side of the courtroom, behind a low wall, a jury stared vacantly at us. They were all grown-ups, all men, and apparently they seemed to think 2 innocent kids appearing on trial in a cage was nothing unusual. So it was official now. The world had gone totally crazy. Chapter 17. Wit, page 55. The one who judges put tiny glasses on his long-beaked nose and scowled down at us. I read his gold plaque. Judge Ezekiel Unger. He picked up a piece of paper. Whitford all good, he read in a stinging voice. Wisteria all good. This trial is convened because you are accused of the most serious crimes against the New Order. He glared at us. There was a standing room only audience of grown-ups behind us. I turned to see the crowd better. The few of them who looked at me were cold-eyed and full of hatred. I rubbed my forehead against my arm as the judge angrily read a bunch of legal-sounding gibberish. I peered at the jury. Surely some of them had to feel sorry for 2 kids who looked hungry and dirty. Kids in handcuffs, in a cage, with no lawyer, but their faces were frozen in expressions of condemnation. It was as if they were being paid to dislike us. Was there some neon sign above our heads that read scowl instead of applause, like on live TV shows? Sometimes I feel like I have that. I remember this one time when I was up at the store, just putting freight up on the shelf, and I'm, kind of dancing. I say dancing, but I'm just like back and forth, and I'm smiling, and people kept glaring at me. And I just thought it was so weird. Anyway. What have we done? Wisty suddenly yelled at the judge. Just tell us that. What are we accused of? Silence, the judge shouted. I forgot his voice already. Listen, you contemptuous girl. You are a most dangerous threat to everything that is proper, right, and good. We know this from police witnesses to your recent perpetration, of the dark arts. We know this from innumerable investigations undertaken by the New Order's Investigative Security Agency, and we know this most fundamentally because of the prophecy. What? Is there like a checklist for various books? I feel like this is hitting a lot of them. Where was I? My mouth dropped open as I saw the jury nodding. Prophecy? I scoffed. I promise you, my sister and I are nowhere in the good book. Get real, Ezekiel. The courtroom gasped. Blasphemer! A woman cried out and shook her fist at us. The bailiff rushed toward me with his billy club raised, and I lifted my eyebrows in mock fear. I'm in a cage, stupid. The bars work both ways. I mean, you could probably reach through anyway. Judge Unger continued, therefore, based on preponderance of evidence, look, whatever the charges, we plead not guilty. I yelled, grabbing the bars of the cage, despite my handcuffs, and shaking them with all my strength, which I guess wasn't the smartest thing. Smack. The bailiff raked his nightstick across my knuckles. Wisty gasped, and I barely managed to swallow a scream of pain. The one who judges literally leaped out of his chair and leaned over his desk, practically within spitting distance. That's showing those vermin. Well done, bailiff. What? That's the only way to deal with this kind of filth. If you spare the rod, you spoil the deviants. What? I'm confused. His face was mottled purple and white, his eyes bugging out of his head. How say you to these charges? He yelled at us. Dumbfounded, Wisty and I replied, not guilty. The judge turned away from us. Gentlemen of the jury, with that statement, the defendants stand in clear contempt of your will and this court's mission. They mock us, they flout the standards of the glorious new order. I ask you, what is your verdict? That's it? I yelled from the cage. That's our trial? You've got to be kidding, screamed Wisty. That's not fair. Smack went the bailiff's nightstick. Smack, smack, smack. Chapter 18. Wit, page 58. Iggy, what are you doing? Anyway. This whole crazy thing was happening so fast. In ordinary, lawful trials, one juror stands and reads the verdict from a sheet of paper that often shakes in his or her hand. But this was a travesty of justice. This jury simply held their fists out. We watched as the men, one by one, turned their hands, thumbs down. All of them. Unanimous. Of course, in ordinary trials, there were also lawyers and due process and principles such as innocent until proven guilty. I believe... Let's see. I forget if it's the whole of the UK or just like England and such, where it's guilty until proven innocent. Where was I? And things like that. Welcome to the New World Order, I guess. Judge Unger banged his gavel so hard that Wisty and I jumped. Guilty as charged, he roared, and then my breath froze in my chest. You, Wisteria Allgood, are hereby determined by the new order to be a witch. You, Whitford Allgood, are determined to be a wizard. Wisty and I could only stare up at him in shock and disbelief, but he saved his best line for last. both of which are punishable by hanging until dead. This took a turn that I was not prepared for. Chapter 19. Wisty, page 60. Hanging until dead? That should be the name of a game. This isn't real. My ears started to buzz. This can't be real. This doesn't happen. This has to be a nightmare. My chest tightened up, the room started to go green and fuzzy, and then I heard Whit's voice, like it was coming to me down a long tunnel. Finally, he shook my shoulder. Hang in there. Poor choice of words, Wisty, he said quietly. I blinked and focused on his face. Love you. I nodded. Whit didn't think he was special, but his words and his touch were like a magic bullet of strength. I could breathe now. Love you too, I whispered. More than I ever knew before. Wish I had a sister. I inhaled deeply and braced myself for what Judge Unger had to say next. Unfortunately, executions are not allowed until said criminal is 18 years of age. The buzzings returned to my ears, the fuzziness to my sight. What? Whit would be 18 in less than a month. I wondered why I wasn't feeling a little flamish or lightning-y right about now. I wanted to lash out at this judge so much that it hurt. Therefore, both of you will be held in the state penitentiary, he continued gravely, and then smiled, for the time being. He nodded at the bailiff in the courtroom and said, take them out of my sight. The guards removed us from the cage, sort of clumsily, I might add, since Whit was thrashing like a rabid animal. You're making a terrible mistake, he yelled. This is insane. You'll be disbarred. This isn't legal. Shut up, wizard, the judge screamed, and suddenly hurled his gavel at Whit. Whit held up his hand, and then the gavel just hung there in midair for a good 5 seconds, maybe 6 inches from Whit's face, and then dropped heavily to the floor. The courtroom was completely silent for a moment. Then chaos took over. Angry voices howled, Witch! Wizard! Put them to death! Execute them both! And they really did mean us, didn't they, Wisty and Whit, the witch and wizard? Well. Chapter 20. Wisty, page 62. The angry chanting and taunting of the courtroom crowd filled our ears as Whit and I were dragged and shoved down a long, narrow hallway and through the throngs of perfect strangers, all thirsty for blood. Our blood. Talk about a way to kill your faith in humanity. A few days ago, it seemed like the worst thing that could happen to me was waking up with a giant zit during school picture day. How could life as I'd known it change so quickly and bizarrely? My brother and I had just been sentenced to death. The horrid word execution kept bouncing around inside my head, sending me into a daze as Whit and I were shoved into another van. I thought of all the people I'd learned about in school who'd been executed or assassinated. I came up with almost a dozen, but they were all political or religious leaders, and I was just Wisteria Allgood. I wasn't powerful enough to scare people. Was I? I was not a hero, a prophet, a saint, or a leader of any kind. It made no sense. And then another horrible thing, stunning, something that changed my mind about the worst thing that could ever happen to me. As we rode through the city, we kept our faces pressed against the tiny window in the foul-smelling van, desperate for sunlight, if nothing else, watching the city streets go by, watching soldiers everywhere, until we saw a new sign being constructed by workmen. Wanted for treason and criminal practice of foul arts. Underneath the words were black and white photographs of Mom and Dad. And then the kicker, dead or alive. They got away, Whit whispered. They're out there somewhere. Somehow they'll find us. We'll find them. There we go. Huh. Well, why not? Book 2. So, I'm going to save that for the next video. Let's see, what page would that be on? Okay, 67. I'm confused. How about you guys? What do you guys think? I don't really have much to say at the moment. I'm still kind of upset. It's funny how much of a connection I feel to characters that aren't real, but I don't know. When I'm reading a book, they feel real to me, and I don't know. I'm being silly, I suppose. Anyway, I don't want to bore you guys. Let me know what you guys think. My ear itches. Let's see. Is there anything important to go over? A friend of mine, Ryan, if you guys watched any of the Dying Light videos, his birthday is in less than a week. I'm hoping that me and some friends can all, if not get together, play a game of some kind together, just to have some fun and see what happens. Anyway, if we do something, I'll let you know, and I'll try and record it, and you guys can see what me and my friends are like. Until next time, goodbye everybody.